Hello and good day to Sufais and my fellow friends. Today, my teammates and I will be presenting about the calculation for question 1 from the July 2023 examination paper. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself and my team. My name is Sinta Debi and my teammates are Claudia Nadim, Izzati Shohaila and Siti Nur Fatana. First and foremost, I would like to explain about our question. This question is about advising a developer on whether to build an office block on a 3,000 meter square. The land was purchased 3 years ago for 450 meters square and the allowable GFA is determined by using a plot ratio of 1.5. Our task is to calculate the total present cost of the project and also estimate the annual equivalent cost. The information provided include the building construction cost, infrastructure cost, preliminaries, contingency, pre-development cost, and etc. Since the question state the inflation and taxation should be ignored, then all the calculation will be based only on the given data by using present value and annual equivalent cost analysis.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Nurfatana and today I will explain the site cost calculation. The site area is 3,000 square meters and the land value is 450 ringgit per square meters. So the initial site cost is calculated as 3,000 multiplied by 450 ringgit, which total 1.35 million ringgit. Since the land was acquired 5 years earlier, the cost is adjusted using the future value factor at 7% interest, which is 1.4026. By multiplying 1.35 million ringgit with 1.4026, we obtain a present value of 1,893,510. To convert this into annual equivalent cost, the present value is multiplied by the factor of annual sinking fund plus interest rate, which is 0.0761. So we got annual equivalent cost of 144,096 ringgit and 11 cent. Therefore, the site cost contributes 1.89 million in present value and 144,000 annually. After determining the site cost, the next step is to calculate the construction cost. Next, I will explain the construction cost. First, the gross floor area or GFA is calculated using the site area of 3,000 square meters and a plot ratio of 1:5, resulting in a total GFA of 15,000 square meters. The building construction cost is then calculated by multiplying the GFA by 2,300 ringgit per square meter, giving a total cost of 34.5 million ringgit and annual equivalent of 2.63 million. Next, the infrastructure is assumed to be 25% of the building cost. This gives a cost of 8.625 million ringgit with annual equivalent cost of 656,362 ringgit and 50 cent. The preliminary costs, which include site management, temporary facilities, is estimated at 2 million ringgit, resulting annual equivalent cost of 152,200 ringgit. A contingency allowance of 3% is also included. This amounts to 1.354 million ringgit with annual equivalent cost of 103,020 ringgit. So final is pre-development cost is estimated at 9 million ringgit, resulting in annual equivalent cost of 684,900 ringgit. So the total construction related present value is 55.48 million ringgit with annual equivalent cost of 4.22 million ringgit per year.
Next, I will explain the annual management cost calculation. The question states that the annual management cost is 10% of the construction cost from the previous calculation. The construction cost is 45,125,000 ringgit. So the annual management cost is calculated as 10% multiplied by 45,125,000 ringgit, which gives 4,512 ringgit, 12,500 ringgit. To determine the present value, I use the years purchase factor for 60 years at 7%, which is 14.0392. So 4,512,500 ringgit multiplied by 14.0392 equals to 63,351,000 ringgit at 190 ringgit. So the present value of the annual management cost is 63,351,890 ringgit, while the annual equivalent amount remains 4,512,500 ringgit per year. Next is the maintenance and operating costs. The question already provides the value as 450,000 ringgit per year, so no additional calculation is needed to obtain the annual cost. Using the same use purchase factor of 14.0392, the present value is calculated as 450,000 ringgit multiplied by 14.0392, which equals to 6,317,640 ringgit. Therefore, the present value of the maintenance and operating cost is 6,317,640 ringgit, and the annual equivalent amount is 450,000 per year.
Next, for the replacements of minor repairs every 5 years, we refer to the present value PV of 1 for every 5 years interval at a 7% interest rate. However, since the questions also include the replacements of major services every 10 years and major renovation including replacements every 20 years, we exclude those related years from the 5 years calculations to avoid overlapping the replacement cost. For the present value method, we multiply the replacement cost of 250,000 ringgit by the total PV factors of 1.4251, which is the sums of the PV factors for the relevant 5 years intervals. This gives us a total present value of 356,275 ringgit. For the annual equivalent method, we multiply the present value of 356,275 ringgit by 0.0671, which represents the ASF plus interest rate. This gives an annual equivalent cost of 27,112 ringgits and 53 cents. Next is the replacements of major services every 10 years. Similar to the previous calculations, we only consider the relevant 10 years intervals, while the years that fall under the 20 years major renovations are excluded to avoid double counting. For the present value method, we multiply the replacement cost of 500,000 ringgit by the total PV factors of 0.6737, resulting in a present value of 336,850 ringgit. For the annual equivalent method, we multiply 500,000 ringgit by 0.0737 and then by 0.0761, where 0.0761 represents ASF plus interest rate. This gives an annual equivalence cost of 25,634 ringgit and 29 cents. Lastly, for the major renovation including replacement every 20 years, the 20 years replacement years that were excluded from the previous calculations are now included. The total PV factors for the year years relevant 20 years intervals at 7% interest rate is 0.3252. For the present value method, we multiply the 5 million ringgits by 0.3252, resulting in PV of 1,626,000 ringgit. For the annual equivalent method, we multiply 5 million ringgit by 0.3252 and then by 0.0761, giving an annual equivalent cost of 123,738 ringgit and 60 cents. That's all for the replacement, minor costs, and major renovation costs.
Furthermore, for total current, since the construction period is 2 years and the remuneration rate is 7%, I use the present value of 1 for 2 years is 0.8734. Therefore, the total current cost of 129,360,950 is multiplied by 0.8734, giving a present value of 112,983,823 and 60 cents. This means the future project cost is converted into today's value for comparison and also decision making purposes. Furthermore, for the annual equivalent cost of 9,553,929 and 99 cents is multiplied by 0.8734 by resulting in 8,344,402 and 45 cents. This also represents the equivalent annual cost expressed in today's value by allowing the developer to understand the yearly financial commitment of the project. That is all for our presentation, and thank you for your attention.